Hello from Columbus, Ohio. I'm Scott Foltz alongside Jason Dye. Those stories plus Bearcats, Razorbacks, Ducks and Dogs, and the Buckeyes take on the Fighting Irish.
And I've got a lot to talk about from a very eventful offseason. All that coming up after this. You're watching Sports Talk on CFC, so stick around.
It's that wonderful time of year again, Jason's favorite time of year, college football season. We're so happy you're joining us for a second season of College Football Chaos. For our returning fans, we're glad you're with us again, and if you're just finding us for the first time, we hope you enjoy the show, and if you do, tell your friends about us. Well, before we get to what's coming, Jason, you have some exciting news from this past offseason.
Oh my gosh, there was just so much that happened in college football this year. The transfers, the head coaching changes, NIL and all that, and what's going on right now. Some of the biggest moves, obviously, Lincoln Riley goes out to USC, leaving Oklahoma. Ohio State got a killer hire in Jim Knowles. Kids transferring all over the place. We could spend an entire show talking about just transfers and head coaching changes, but obviously we're in week one. We've got to get to week one, so here we go. I mean, it's gonna be great. I think it's gonna be one of the greatest college football seasons ever.
Really?
Yeah, I do. It's just there's a lot of firepower. A lot of people calling for an Ohio State Alabama national title prediction.
Wouldn't bother me a bit.
Yeah, you conference realignments. You got Oklahoma and Texas going to the SEC here next year or something like that.
2025, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so. And so you got USC and UCLA coming to the Big Ten, and
Big 12.
No, they're going to the Big Ten.
They're going to the Big Ten.
Yeah, the Big Ten. Yeah, so a lot going on there. I think the conference realignments are far from over. I think you're going to see some super conferences. Like I said, it's a great time to be a college football fan right now.
Now, somebody who's not having a great time at this point, Scott Frost.
Yeah.
What is his future looking like, if at all, at Nebraska?
I tell you what, if you're a Nebraska fan, if you're a player right now, you've got to really wonder what is going on in the mind of Scott Frost. That game last week against Northwestern, they're up 28-17. The dude kicks a onside kick after scoring a touchdown. Probably had this game in hand. Casey Thompson, their quarterback, who was a transfer from Texas, had an incredible game as his first game as Cornhusker. But right now, the state of Nebraska football is not in a good place. They've lost 21 games now with 7 points or less. It's a record in the NCAA. Absolutely, just not good if you're a Cornhusker right now. And honestly, his time has got to be done. Either he rights this ship, or I would probably say here in the next game or two, if they don't right this ship quick, he's out.
Now, you wanted to talk some about Desmond Howard's playoff predictions, and you differ on a few of them.
Very much. For those of you that probably know, Desmond Howard made a very wild Final Four prediction. He has Texas A&M, Baylor, Pitt, and Michigan.
That's the playoffs?
Yeah.
I get picking Michigan. He is a Michigan alumnus, and you stick with your boys.
Of course.
Texas A&M, they can bring it. They have spurts. Baylor's usually strong. They did win the Big 12 last year. Pitt? Pitt? Nothing against Pittsburgh. I like Pittsburgh, the city, and the Steelers, and yes, even the Panthers too. Sometimes I have nothing against them, but Pitt?
I don't get it. I really don't get it. This guy, he obviously doesn't like Ohio State. We know that. But you mean to tell me that the likes...
We don't like Michigan.
Right. And you mean to tell me the likes of Alabama and Ohio State this year not making the college football playoff is going to... That could actually happen? I mean, both of those teams alone would have to implode. There's probably multiple other losses that would have to happen for that to be true. And this guy has just lost his mind.
Yeah, in those four predictions, not a single SEC team.
Well, Texas
Now,
A&M is SEC.
They have moved.
Yeah.
I thought they were still Big 12.
No.
They're SEC as
Yeah.
of this year.
No,
All right.
they've been SEC for quite a few years now.
All right, well, now that I've made a fool of myself, before we get this week's games, make sure you bookmark this video, everyone, because at the end of the year, we're going to look back and see how close Jason's Power 5 picks were. We'll start on the West Coast. Who do you like to win the Pac-12?
Honestly, USC. I think Lincoln Riley, he's going to bring that program back to prominence pretty quickly. He's got some good kids. He had a great recruiting season. I think he's going to be able to do it just because of the level of competition that's in the Pac-12 right now. We'll see how they fare against Utah. I think they play Utah, but obviously you have to go through Oregon and all that. But I honestly think USC could be the one that wins the Pac-12 this year.
All right, which of the 8 teams in the Big 12 do you think takes it all?
Oklahoma. I mean, they got a great head coach now, Brent Venables, the former defensive coordinator for Clemson. I think he's a tough dude. He's going to have that team ready to play. I know that Oklahoma had some defensive issues last year, but they still got a lot of talent, so I take Oklahoma.
Yeah, and this is a complete reversal from your pick of last year.
Yeah.
Last year, everybody was on the Oklahoma wagon, and you said all season long, Baylor's going to whoop them, Oklahoma State's going to whoop them. Everybody kept singing Oklahoma's praises, and Oklahoma's not a bad program by any means. What happened? Baylor won, Oklahoma State won.
Yep.
And now, in this year, you're saying Oklahoma, the Sooners take the whole thing.
Yeah, because I'm going to go back to Oklahoma State for a minute. They lost Jim Knowles, who went to Ohio State, obviously, and I watched their game just the other day, and they got like 38 points hung up on them by an inferior team. So the defense has definitely changed, and it hasn't changed for the better. And I just think with Oklahoma's new head coach, now a defensive guy, that's not going to really good for Oklahoma State.
All right. The ACC has had a rough couple of years, so who do you think will bring them up this season?
Clemson. Speaking of
you have faith in Dabo Swinney.
I do, and I'm not a big fan of Dabo, but he's still a good football coach.
Yeah.
He's going to have those kids ready this year. I think they've been singing some praises for Clemson, but I don't have a lot of faith in the power of the ACC, especially with last night. Virginia Tech lost to Old Dominion, and that is not a good sign if you're a fan of ACC football.
Down south, does the SEC still belong to Nick Saban and the Alabama Crimson Tide?
Yes.
Flat out, yes.
Yes. Georgia's going to be good this year, but they lost a lot of players, and then Alabama, Nick Saban, he has a way of getting those kids motivated. He's been in contention year after year after year.
Yep.
The SEC runs through Tuscaloosa.
And as for the Big Ten, I'm going to go out on a limb. I'm guessing you're picking Michigan.
No. Ohio State. I think we're looking at a very revamped Ohio State team. Questions being in defense, but we're going to get those questions answered tonight. But I think Ohio State takes it all.
You think the defense is back up to where they were in years past?
There's a lot of good things that we've heard about the new defense.
Yeah.
I just think that this team's hungry. Ryan Day has this team ready to fight this year. I'm looking forward to it.
All right. Well, there you have it. Trojans, Sooners, Tigers, Tide, and the Buckeyes round out the Power Five. So says Jason. Remember to stick with us throughout the season and see how these predictions unfold. The Cincinnati Bearcats were last year's Cinderella story, running roughshod over the American Athletic Conference with very little resistance. A few teams came close, including Notre Dame, but the Bearcats won the conference and secured a number 4 playoff spot, the first ever non-Power 5 school to do so. Their dreams died there, however, as Alabama wrecked Cincy 27-6. Will the Bearcats, what do they have to do against a very strong Arkansas Razorback team with something to prove in their own right?
I think both of these teams, they're evenly matched, and Cincinnati still has good lines, and you're going to need them, especially up front against the likes of Arkansas. Question is how will this Bearcats offense look with no Desmond Howard and no Isaiah Ford? They both went to the NFL. Those are the big questions. But Luke Fickell, he can get his kids going. So I think it's going to be a great game. But I think in the end, though, Arkansas will be able to run the ball on Cincinnati. I think Arkansas takes it in a close one, 28-20.
Our second game features 2 runner-up teams in their respective conferences. The Oregon Ducks fell to Utah last year. The Georgia Bulldogs dropped the SEC title game to Alabama, though the Dogs did go on to win the national championship. Do the Dogs continue their winning ways, or does Oregon's march to the top begin here?
We're going to get a lot of questions answered from Oregon. They lost Mario Cristobal to Miami, Florida. Obviously, Georgia had lost some players to the NFL, a lot of defensive talent, but Kirby Smart, once again, master motivator. He's going to put his guys in a position to win. And it's going to be Oregon's a quick strike offense, and hopefully still will be a quick strike offense. We don't know. There's a lot of questions going into this season with Oregon, but I think Georgia, however, does find a way to slow them down.
And finally, one of the best defensive players in Buckeye history returns to Ohio State. Unfortunately, James Laurinaitis will be coaching for Notre Dame when he comes to the Shoe this time. The Irish lost a great game in last year's Fiesta Bowl, falling to OK State 37-35, while the Buckeyes had one of the greatest comebacks we'd ever seen in last year's Rose Bowl, overcoming a 35-21 deficit at halftime to go over the Utah Utes 48-45. This one should be very, very close. Would you agree?
I think it's going to be a street fight. I honestly think it's going to be a street fight.
I would agree with that.
Yeah. Look, tonight the Shoe is going to be rocking. They're honoring the 2002 national title team. Jim Tressel is going to be there.
The sweater vest.
The sweater vest, the man. It's going to be a all-out street fight tonight. That crowd is going to be rocking, and I don't know when Notre Dame really gets into this game where they're just going to be overwhelmed. The Shoe is no place to sit there and when it's rocking and be talking trash, like it's not going to bother you. You got 100,000 people screaming at the top of their lungs. That's got to be overwhelming. But Marcus Freeman, he did a great job taking over in that interim game against Oklahoma State. Obviously, Oklahoma State came out, but who was the defensive coordinator at Oklahoma State last year? Jim Knowles. Now he's back. He's playing for, coaching for Ohio State now. This team, better talent defensively for Ohio State, but Notre Dame, Marcus Freeman, James Laurinaitis, defensive-oriented guys, obviously.
Yeah.
I really think this is going to be a test of defense. But the one question I do have, can Notre Dame match with the speed of Ohio State outside? That's going to be the key. But there's also one little X factor that I almost forgot to throw in.
Yeah.
Travion Henderson.
That's an X factor, all right.
You've got speed with Marvin Harrison Jr., Jackson Smith and Jigba on the outside, a couple other guys. And now you're going to leave that guy 32 wide open for some passes, maybe some run options, Lord only knows what Brian Day has cooked up. I think the speed of Ohio State will wear Notre Dame down. Defensively, probably the beginning of the game, Notre Dame is going to they're going to pop Ohio State in the mouth early. I really do think so.
Their defense gets some stops in the early parts of the game.
Yeah, because nerves and hype and everybody's ready to go.
You think this is going to come down to conditioning then?
Yeah. Who's tougher?
Yeah.
Who's tougher? Ryan Day.
Who's breathing heavy in the fourth quarter?
Yeah. Look, Marcus Freeman, James Laurinaitis, a couple of the toughest Ohio State players.
Yeah,
they
absolutely.
know what it takes at Ohio State. They know the traditions of Ohio State. Ryan Day has completely laser focused this team this year. They have a serious chip on their shoulder. They want that defense to be. Ryan Day said, "I want a top 5 defense." Well, Jim Knowles said, "No, I want a top 5." Ryan Day said top 10. No. Jim Knowles went
top 5.
Top 5.
Yep.
That's how I knew that was our guy.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, okay, this is our guy.
We want to bring the defense. The Buckeyes want to bring the defense back to the days when James Laurinaitis was in the defensive backfield.
Right.
With the days when the Bosa brothers were there.
Silver bullets. That's They want that back. And there was a lot of kids that lost their black stripes early in camp. I'm excited. I cannot wait. It's just going to be a good game tonight. And I like Ohio State in this game 34-26.
All right. Well, that's going to wrap it up for us. Join us again next week for Week 1 recaps, Week 2 predictions, and stay with us throughout the year for what's sure to be a very exciting college football season. You've been watching Sports Talk on CFC. We'll see you next time.